Hello, this is Charles Reinert coming at you from Happy Valley, Pennsylvania, and you're listening to Downbeat with the Blue Band, the official podcast of the Pennsylvania State University Marching Blue Band. Hello, and welcome to the very first episode of Downbeat with the Blue Band. We are sitting here with three Blue Band alumni, Thomas Range.
Hi, how you doing?
Lewis Lazaro.
Hey.
And Sean Patrick Smith.
Hey, nice to see you.
Range graduated in 1989, Smith graduated in 1990, and Lazaro graduated in 1993. They have co-wrote multiple books together, talking about Blue Band history and Penn State history, including one that just came out this past April, correct?
That's correct. Right. Yes.
But most importantly, they're all really good friends and are really excited to have them here on the podcast. And without further ado, let's get on into it. Okay. So my first question for you guys today is, how did being a member of the Blue Band change your outlook on Penn State and college life in general?
Wow. You want to start?
All right. I know that for me, this is the reason why I came to Penn State to begin with. All right. So I was an English major when I was here. And to be, blunt about it, you can go anywhere that you want and get an English degree. And it's not like there's a huge degree of variance. You're going to study the same kind of stuff. But you can't go anywhere and be a part of a band like this that marches at a school like this. So that was a driving force for me to even attend Penn State to begin with. And I marched I was here for 4.5. I marched 5 seasons. So there really wasn't a time in Penn State that I wasn't a part of the band, that wasn't a part of my experience. So I don't think it's an understatement to say that it defined everything about my Penn State experience from the very beginning to the very end.
I think we can, all three of us can say something similar to that. Did we all march 5 seasons?
No, I graduated on time.
On time,
okay.
Like
you two, lazy.
Look, I was dual degreeing, so.
Oh, that.
I was just lazy, so. No, I had an internship. So, I came up to Penn State especially for the band because I had opportunities with other colleges, but I really wanted to come to Penn State for the band experience. I knew it was going to be a great experience. Tom was a year older than I was, and he had gone to the same high school I did.
I'm still a year older, by the way.
Yeah, that's right, and he always will be.
Okay.
Don't you ever forget it. But we had been writing back and forth at the time, and he kept on describing just how great it was to be in the band there, and it got me real excited about going to Penn State. And I don't regret it at all. It was such a great experience for all of us. What's great about it is even today, we're still super close friends after 30 years.
Yeah.
And we have literally dozens of other friends that we are just as tight with.
Were you special admit? Did you
Probably,
audition? I think you auditioned, and the special admit process is. If you made, now they call them Commonwealth campuses instead of branch campuses, but if you made Penn State and Commonwealth campus, but you wanted to be in the Blue Band, you could only be in the Blue Band if you were up here.
Right.
And they did a special audition, and they said Sean's definitely good enough to be in the Blue Band, and he was moved to the main campus.
Right.
Now, unlike you guys, I had no idea about the Penn State Blue Band. When I came up here, I wasn't going to be in the band. I'm a cello player. I was going for a minor in music.
It's hard to drag that chair along.
Oh, running up to the next yard line and sitting down, playing 3 notes and picking it up. I mean, it was really tough.
That's tough, yeah.
But I was in the high school marching band. My junior year, I played bass drum. That was simple. You just played on the downbeats. And then my senior year, they needed a 6 tuba to make the formation symmetrical. So I was big enough to carry one. I mean, I learned the B flat major scale. I mean, B flat major scale is pretty hard.
It's tough.
But when I came to Penn State, I just came for the academics. I had no inkling about the Blue Band. And it was the summer. I came up for the summer before the fall semester. I actually started college a week before I graduated high school. And I met a Blue Bander who graduated from Pennsbury, Bill Flood, in my dorm. And we just hit it off, and he was talking. It's like, weren't you in the Pennsbury band? I was like, yeah. I was like, you gotta try out for the blue band. You won't regret it. And I haven't regretted it at all. And the things and the opportunities that it opened it all up to us. I mean, I never been on a plane before going to a bowl trip with the band.
Really?
Some of the cities, Chicago, where else did we go? I think we did a road trip to Virginia. I mean, the band offered so much. And then on top of that, leadership. We all became leaders. May it be a rank leader, which is now known as a right guide, or squad leader. I became president of the band my senior year. I mean, there were so many things that the Blue Band gave me that I always feel like they gave me more than I can ever give back.
What's nice about the Blue Band is it's the one organization on campus that really cuts across all majors. It doesn't matter whether you're an English major, a math major, or as I was myself, I was some kind of major. But no,
he doesn't use that degree.
I was a logistics major, business. It doesn't matter whether you're an engineer or whatever it is that you're in. It's still an organization that you're tied to, specifically to the university. You know that we all share that Penn State experience together, and especially the football experience with. Through the band.
It gives you that sense of being a part of the larger university, right? For a lot of students, it's like, oh, well, these are my friends and the dorm, or this little club that I'm a part of, or like the college within the university that I'm in. But I mean, like, we experienced the university
as a whole.
Is that and made connections with students that aren't like you.
Right.
At all. Yeah. Different majors. I'm always surprised. I don't think music majors is the largest percentage of the band. It isn't.
Not at all.
I remember they took all the science, Eberly College of Science majors, and they did a photo one of the years I was there, and I'd say there was like 30, 40. I mean, it was more than 10% of the band were Eberly College of Science people.
Well, and also Smeal College of Business.
Right.
Oh, I'm sure there's
very
plenty
big
of
percentage. So, but it didn't matter. You could have found almost every major in the band, and there's very few organizations on campus that are like that. You could also say that with the alumni band. I don't think there's another alumni organization that is as tight with one another through the years.
We're the envy of probably all the other APG affiliate program groups. We're actually associated with the College of Arts and Architecture. We're the only group that actually comes back and redoes what they did
when we were
at least once a year. Homecoming parades, the alumni band, and then we do gigs on the side. And what amazes me is that we're all good friends. We were all in about the same time. Lou and I never marched. It was
together.
And homecoming, alumni band. But some of my friends are people I was never in the band with, but we all went through the band process together, and we can talk and experience things now.
We have friends that are a generation older than us, and now, as we're getting older, we have
couple of generations
one
younger
or two
than us.
generations younger than us, including the students. We have a connection to the students in a way that very few organizations on campus do. So we're all very loyal to one another. That's one of the things that I think the Blue Band engenders, and the Alumni Blue Band also.
Charles has just been sitting there very patiently.
Yeah, I think he's
he gave
waiting
us
for
a
another
question, and then
question.
we just kind of
You made a mistake, buddy. You made a mistake.
no.
You put the three of us in a room
together.
Just talk about Blue Band. You can leave now.
We're here for hours. Man.
Whether the camera,
Cancel your plans for the rest
whether
of
the
the
Yeah.
podcast
Hey,
is on.
I got no plans for the entire day. If you guys want to talk all day, go right ahead. So you guys talked about how a lot of other bands envy the Alumni Association of the Blue Band. What else separates the Blue Band from other collegiate bands around the country?
Well, I'd say the Blue Band history. I think we do a good job of tracing it and we can specifically say this guy right here started the band. I know when after we wrote the first book, Sean, we were contacted by other universities like, so how did you do this? Like, what did you do? And I haven't told you guys recently. Nebraska has asked. Oh no, Texas. I'm
Texas,
sorry.
yeah.
University of Texas has been asked. It's like, okay, you have 3 different types of books here. Which one was the best? What are the pros? What are the cons and stuff? And I talked to a guy there. So I think what distinguishes the Blue Band is that we could point to a specific point in time. Our marching style is different. It's more like a Big Ten style, and there's many different types of college bands. There's one that's more drum corps, like Westchester, where they do one show the whole season, but they add things to it, and it's more of a moving kind of thing. While the Blue Band is more of a traditional marching band, and we do a different show every home game.
But not as traditional as somewhere like Texas, right? Which is very military in style. That sort of a style that the Blue Band went through, but then sort of like put aside and to be more sort of collegiate in style.
I think that there is an esprit de corps in the Blue Band that's kind of unique. I think that just the whole package of Penn State having such a big time football program, combined with, I think also a lot of it is that there are other bands that have bigger names. You know, you think of Ohio State or you think of University of Michigan.
Why would you say
I
that?
know, I'm
Blasphemer!
We don't like those names right now.
Yeah, no one likes those names.
But they do have a cachet to them. And the Blue Band, if you're not from around here, or you're not familiar with, say, the Big Ten, you may not think of Penn State's band as that. So I think there is kind of when you're comparing to other bands, there's a bit of a chip on the shoulder of those that are in the Blue Band that we really want to impress. And of course, there's nothing like being in front of 100,000 screaming maniacs either.
Right. I'd say a couple of things. One, the whole idea that what the Blue Band does is perform with a kind of quiet grace.
Yep.
Right. It's not brash. It's not in your face. It's we are who we are, and we do what we do, and we do it really well. And I think that attitude is one of the reasons why people don't automatically think of it alongside of like USC, right? Which has that more of that that sort of
TV,
movies, TV
like
movie
that.
attitude
Like,
kind of thing, right? But the second thing, and sort of as a counter to that, and just because I think we can all agree with it because we've all seen it, is that there is no level of enmity that exists between marching bands. Because on the field, everybody's going to march their heart out, right? Everybody's going to do what it is that they do and do it for the love of their universities and do it for the love of playing, of doing what we do. But the minute those bands step off the field, there's 100% camaraderie between them. I can't even tell you the number of times that we've gone on the road or had a band come here, and it's really just band students who are sharing stories with each other, talking about their experiences, and really enjoying each other's presence. I saw that. I was in my last season was 1993, our first season in the Big Ten, and our road trip that year was to Ohio State. So like playing in the shoe, which is a really super big deal. And obviously there's this on the field level of competition that exists between us and Ohio State. The minute that you step off that field, it was absolutely like shake your hand, how you doing, share some stories, talk about your experiences. Being in band is probably not just one of the great things that unites the members of an individual band, but unites band people across the country.
I have one exception.
Only one?
Only one exception. University of Miami's band.
Oh,
for the national championship. But that football team came in with a chip on
With a
their
chip on his
shoulder.
shoulder.
The band came in with a chip on the shoulder. I have never been like when you perform a drill, you have to count rests or count steps and stuff like that. I had never had an opposing band set up behind you, yelling out numbers, trying to screw you mess you up.
Really?
Sorry.
Tough.
And oh yeah, that was the universe. And then the two bands were supposed to go to this same amusement park or something like that. Sean, you were there. For
Yeah,
that.
it was kind of a unique situation. In 1986, 87 for the national championship year, of course, we played the University of Miami. The intense kind of chip on the shoulder of the Hurricanes players, fans, everybody.
Yeah, they felt that we should not even be
It
there.
actually was kind of unique. I had never experienced that before. So I'd say it's an exception because we've been to other big rival schools like Notre Dame, for instance.
They were the nicest.
They were
I've
the
been,
nicest
really.
folks, and even the Pitt band, University of Pittsburgh.
And that was always an ongoing rivalry, but it was still, like Lou was saying, you're a marching band, we're a marching band. We both know how many hours, dedication, devotion you must have
Yeah.
to be in this group.
So you connect not only through the university, but you connect to other universities as well that way.
Was there ever any feeling to try and upstage the rival band from other schools?
Oh, well, I mean,
Well, Battle of the Bands, you always tried to, usually on a bowl trip, they would have a Battle of the Bands. So you'd play us. We're still in the band. The blue band would play a song, and then the opposing team would play a song, or a post game sometimes if you weren't on the field. And sure, you wanted to
you're always going to try and do what
Try
you
and
do
outdo
better than
the
the
other
other
ones.
guy is
Sure.
going to do. I mean, that's just, but that's for the love of your discipline, right? For the love of what it is that you do,
And the university.
Not it's very much about it. Think of it as more of being on the positive side of we want to be the best that we can be, not
We want to embarrass
we
the
want to
other
embarrass the other group. That's never the way. I don't ever remember, seeing that attitude.
Yeah, they can embarrass themselves. Just
yeah, they don't need any help from us.
So you guys mentioned a lot the different stadiums you've performed at during your blue band days. Which was your favorite to perform at?
Nothing beats Beaver Stadium, and that's
Yeah.
all there
Good
is to
answer.
it.
Good
Right.
answer.
Thank you very much.
very good.
Nicely
That's
done.
it. That's
Nicely
it.
done.
I did get the notes ahead of time.
Yeah, you knew that question was coming.
No, I mean, let's be honest, right? I mean, it honestly has to be that, because if you think about everywhere else that you travel to, the most of the time, if you're going to a bowl game, you're usually playing in a pro stadium,
Yeah.
right? And automatically, one, the seating capacity is always less because it's a pro stadium, and two, the stadium itself is always split in half because half the seats, of course, have gone to whoever the opposing team is. So there is honestly no environment in all of football that I think I've ever been in that is like what it is that happens when you step out of the tunnel or you step off the sideline at Beaver Stadium.
True.
Hands down.
Yeah. I mean, I'm trying to mentally think now. I was in the band before the Big Ten, so I would have loved an opportunity for the big house or the shoe or
shoe,
something
yeah.
like that, which I never had that opportunity.
And that is a thrill. I mean, there's no question. I mean, you march into one of those kinds of storied stadiums, right? Did you guys road trip to Notre Dame?
I was going to say
Yeah.
Notre Dame was probably my biggest. Wow, touchdown Jesus, first down Moses, all those things. That was really cool because it was an iconic kind of thing. But other than that, I mean, University of Maryland. We played Temple always in the
that stadium
whatever
at
the
that
Eagles
point.
Stadium is at the time.
Well,
Yeah.
and it's always full of Penn Staters
we-
anyway.
Veteran Stadium probably back then.
Yeah.
Right, and Veterans Stadium was a
But Tempe, Arizona, the national
god-awful
championship
stadium. I
game.
know.
Yeah.
But I'm thinking of bowl games like maybe Joe Robbie or the LA Coliseum or maybe some places like that. But I think Lou's right. There really doesn't being in Beaver Stadium, even if you're an opposing player or a band or a fan. I mean, just like any of the whiteouts that we have over at Beaver
Oh, that
Beaver
is
Stadium
awe-inspiring from from the ground level,
Yeah,
looking
very
up and being
intimidating
like,
if you're an opposing
I
team.
really can't see anything. I mean,
Yeah,
the
really.
glare. It's really like,
And
As,
actually-
as any Penn Stater knows, if you've been inside that stadium for a whiteout, just the energy level that just infuses everything. And the one year that we did homecoming during the
and it was a whiteout.
against Michigan, just
That was the multiple,
the 4 overtime win. That just, I mean, that is honestly an incomparable experience.
I made ESPN on that. Yeah, we finally got the winning score, and I ran out in the field, and all of a sudden I looked, and I was like, I'm the only one on the field. I better get back.
I usually made Sports Center, but usually for turning the wrong way.
Yeah.
But,
100%.
what he's not kidding either. There's nothing like actually going onto the field. The blue band rushes out of the tunnel during pregame. That very first set that we do when we do the floating lions, and the drum major does the flip. There really is nothing like having, 110,000 people just screaming their heads off at you while you're on the field. I mean, there's really nothing like it. I mean, only the players get to experience anything like that.
Yeah,
It's true.
Yeah, and it's really. I mean, I remember the first game of my senior year when I was president, and I actually did a little speech before the game saying, okay, and at the time it was 84,000. I mean, it wasn't as big as it is now. It's like, some of you guys are first year people. Don't get distracted. I'm serious. Don't get distracted. You're going to run out there, and there'll be people that, oh my God, look how many people. And then all of a sudden you're not in the right spot or not, something like that. And I mean, we know plenty of people that kept on walking when they were supposed to turn, or
Some of us in this very room.
wasn't me, but
I'll tell you what, I did that one time. Lou will verify it.
I was right behind you.
As a matter of fact, he likes to brag about it. But I remember
I stopped. He kept going.
I was leading a line out on the field, and I had trouble counting. So I had
Which is
trouble.
why you went into
he doesn't have 10 fingers.
So I, but my hands are different. I was leading a line out, and I think I went 10 yards too far.
Yeah.
And I realized, oh my gosh! And Lou was yelling at me, trying not to yell too loud. Sean! And I looked behind me. They're way behind me. No one followed me out. So I did.
Thank God.
So I did a perfect about face.
You really did. It was
probably
crisp. It was beautiful.
I marched crispy, cleanly, knees to my chin,
Absolutely.
all the way back to my spot,
Like it was meant to happen.
like it was meant to be like that.
It was his soul. He was dotting the O or something like that. I don't know.
It felt
what
like
it was.
a. It
If
felt
a
like
dot goes on the side, then
that's him.
absolutely.
I did feel like I was dotting.
So just to circle back around to
Stadiums,
to
right? We were talking about stadiums, I think, when we started.
The general thing. I mean, I remember being told this, and kind of the same thing that Tom told everybody, is that really, you look at the rookies, coming out for their first game, and I remember that my section leader told me the same thing. You're not going to play a note. That first game that you walk out there, you're not going to play a note.
I have heard that before.
You just focus on making sure that you know where it is that you're going, so that you're not stepping out and making the formation look weird. But you're not going to play a note that first time that you're out there, because it's just going to be that overwhelming.
Mm-hmm.
And back then, I mean, like Tom said, I mean, that was, the stadium was at 86,000 at that point. And now, I mean, you crank that up to 107 or 110
more
or whatever. That's,
Yeah.
it's an overwhelming sort of thing. You can feel like being down on the field and being in that block and knowing exactly at those sort of moments in the music what's going to happen. Like, you hear, the announcer go, drum major, or, whoever it is, and they run out to do the flip, and you hear the air kind of get sucked out of the stadium as everybody goes,
Is he going to make it?
and then he hits that flip and drops into the split, and everybody goes, and then the roar happens.
And you don't see it. You're on the field. You can't.
You have no
can't
ability.
see. You don't know if the drum major made it or not, but you can hear
the head
if the
behind
drum major
you,
made
right?
it or not.
So, but based on that entire crowd reaction of exactly what it is that's happened. And
Well, this fall too is going to be even more difficult because that stadium's going to be absolutely rocking.
It is going to be nuts.
Oh,
Absolutely.
people are going to be
It's gonna be
super
nuts.
crazy. And then anyone who was a freshman last year didn't
Yeah.
experience it. So now you have
Like half the band.
first year and second year. I think they want us to
Sure.
start using those
Those
terms.
official terms.
Yeah.
Yeah.
First year and second year blue banders who have never stepped foot in Beaver Stadium. And even if you step foot in Beaver Stadium and it's empty, you're like, oh, this isn't too bad. It's
Plus,
no.
another thing this year, the whiteout game just got announced right before you guys got here. They're going to be playing
What?
Auburn.
No,
in the
no
whiteout.
surprise
Oh,
there.
not
That's
a
the right
surprise at
choice.
all.
That's like the second game at Beaver Stadium this season.
Right.
So that
Sure.
stadium's going to be absolutely off the hook.
I actually I feel kind of bad for Ball State.
Yeah.
Being,
Yeah, honestly,
being
yeah.
the first game of
Well,
the
we
season.
normally do, but
but
Ouch.
them coming
Come on,
in
people.
as like our first game is going to be unreal. And then the second game, I mean, like where nothing is going to let up
Yeah.
after the
Right.
first game.
Yeah.
It
People
it's-
stay standing through that whole
Well,
second
I'm not sure that they'll have a hard time getting people to leave the stadium in between those weeks, like Ball State and people.
And then people are just going to camp
Well,
out.
they'll
This
camp
seat was
out.
pretty good. I'll stay here.
All right. So, 1 second here. Okay. So both of you guys have been around the band a lot since you graduated from college. What would you say has changed now compared to how it was back when you were in the blue band?
Well, we used to pick up our feet back then.
We're a
mean,
lot
now
better
they're
back then.
lazy. And one thing, and we always kid about this, but we marched faster.
Yeah, the
Yeah.
tempo is
The
definitely
tempo has slowed down since we graduated, mostly because they can't keep up with us.
right. That's the
thank
drill.
goodness.
So I would say, if I'm looking at the largest differences, and this is definitely sort of old guy kind of talking here, is that those kids don't know how good they've got it.
True that.
The whole, I mean, for us,
Probably a good point.
living out of trailers,
Yeah.
right? Not having a building, not having the support, the level of support that the current students have, and God bless them for having it. I mean,
we don't
it's
want to take that away
It's
from them.
absolutely something that we were proud to be able to contribute to and to help to make possible, because it's something that we ourselves wish that we had had. But without question, they can be the best that they can be because of the level of support, because they have the O. Richard Bundy Blue Band building, because they've got that level of support. I mean, that's ultimately, if we had that, we would have loved it, because they have that. They can be the band that we all knew that the Blue Band should.
And I think
Right.
that was directly after joining the Big Ten, and the band started to visit other band programs and be like, oh, yeah, they all have their own practice fields, they have their own places.
More importantly, the moneyed people and administrators realized that the band really needed to have better facilities for them. And well, this was about the time that I believe that the university started really having a more sophisticated development procedures and development offices, so they were able to raise money in a way that they weren't able to before. So I think, and of course, just being in the Big Ten too adds to that.
Yeah.
So now they have a beautiful practice facility and places to put their uniforms.
Yeah, I was just going to
practice.
say some of the major glaring differences between us. One, the uniform itself. The original Blue Band uniform when we were in the band was actually a concert band uniform. So it was dress slacks and a suit, and then they just threw a white overlay on top. The new uniforms that they're marching with are really marching band uniforms. They're all like, there's a two-piece, and the overlay is actually cloth, and it's that plastic leather, the pleather that we had to carry with us and overheat. 2 shoes. We had to buy shoes every season with our own money. Now Nike gives them sneakers, comfortable sneakers,
Yeah.
that they can connect spats to. 3, the uniform. Well, after the game, they put the uniform back. We had to take it back to our dorm rooms. If there was mud on it, you had to wash it.
responsible
You
for
had to
that.
clean things up. School horns.
Yeah.
I mean, the band now has school performance horns for every person. In our day, it was sousaphone, baritone, mellophone, and of course the percussion.
Right.
everybody
And
else
that was
had
it.
their
And
own.
they were not like professional. The horns that we used for performances, they now use just for practice. So as Lewis mentioned, I guess we're a little bit envious. Like, I mean,
Sure.
Or a lot.
and
Yeah.
you know, but
I'm
and we
sure,
don't want
yeah.
to take away from the kids because Lou's right. They have no idea. They go into the band building and they see a picture of the 2 trailers, and eventually became 3 that we had to live out of. I mean, basically live out of.
Yeah, I think there's a lot of that. There's, I think in comparison to today, it was a little bit. I really sound like an old person. Tony.
What?
We all
What are you talking,
It
Sean?
was a simpler time. So,
Thanks for so much.
and I think
Back
with-
in my day.
but with the, I mean, we were all in school when Joe Paterno was the coach, and we had 2 national championships pretty close there in '82 and '86, or '87, and then so there was a lot of that as well. I think just the zeitgeist was obviously different, and it was a little bit more quaint to be in the band.
Do you think the band performs more now? I think it's one. I think it's harder to get into. Like I don't know if I. Well, it also depends.
Well,
on my
obviously,
year.
I made it. So.
Yeah. It was easier back then. Sean made it. No, well, it also depends. I mean,
It depends
season is a different. Depends on what
Which
section,
section you're
is-
trying out
is-
for.
Yeah. But I just get a feeling that I don't know. They
they're
have
doing
more
more.
performances. I mean, now there's also other opportunities because there's a volleyball band, there's a
ice hockey
band,
band,
there's
yeah.
all that. It was blue band, and then some of us would split off and do basketball
Basketball
band.
that was it.
Historically, there was one blue band.
Mm-hmm.
Since
Well, there was
19
the marching blue band and a concert blue band.
Yeah,
But
from
marching
1923 on, there was really kind of 2 bands. There was a concert band and a marching band. But now there are dozens of ensembles, bands. I remember when one of the differences, and I don't know if they still do this, they probably do. When we were students, one of the drum major, Greg.
Zings.
Yeah, Zigas.
Jay.
Jay Zigas was had worked at one of the restaurants, sports restaurants in town, and he would get together a few of us for sort of a pep band gig after the games. So after the games, we would go to this restaurant, like a handful of us, and we would just play fight songs. We'd play maybe 4 or 5 fight songs, and they'd give us a free meal. So there was opportunities like that that are a little bit more casual than I think today. Everything's
Has
kind
to go
of
through
regimented.
proper
formal,
channels.
Yeah.
And yeah.
Well,
get
sure. I
permission.
mean, just think about the idea that, like, when we were in, as Tom mentioned earlier, right? Game ends and
You go home.
Everybody just waves goodbye, and people just sort of scattered. And people might get together and go out into the into the tailgates and do some tailgate bands, and get some food from the tailgates. And now that's totally not a thing anymore, right?
You
The band
march
forms
back.
up, they march back, everything gets sort of put back, where it belongs, kind of
And
thing.
and even
So,
before the game, doing the Bryce Jordan Center
the
the
tailgate.
tailgate.
Yeah.
tailgate. When we were in, we pretty much just lined up in parade formation and just marched over to the stadium. That was as formal as it got.
Yeah, and even the march. I mean, people have uploaded videos of stuff during our years, and you're like, yeah, we were kind of like, woo. And some of the cheers, I still can't believe we got
Yeah,
away with
slightly
some of the
off
cheers.
Yeah,
Back
it was
then.
a simpler day.
It was,
Yeah,
it
that's
was a
what you
simpler
keep on
time.
saying.
So
Would you say the band or the culture of the band is more or less the same nowadays as it was back then? Or would you say it's changed somewhat since you left?
I think there's inevitable change. I mean, we're talking about since we were in, that's 30 years, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
So the
people themselves.
the students are different. There are basic values that absolutely are the same, that are consistent over time. That we certainly share with the current students and with everybody who's been in the intervening time. But the sorts of things that they value in terms of like little in jokes or things like, I mean, all of those stuff that all cycles, right? So we had things that traditionally we did, and then those things left and were replaced by other things, and so I mean that's just natural for any organization, right?
But the core esprit de corps of the band, priding itself on excellence, has never changed. One of the hallmarks of and what differentiates a lot of marching band universities or university marching bands from Penn State is that we have always had a concert band feel.
Yeah.
From the days of the very first director, Tommy Thompson, through Hum Fishburne and Jen Dunlap, Dr. Deal, Dr. Bundy, Greg Drain, all of these directors in the past 120 years now have emphasized that we sound that we're well balanced, that we're not just stand and blast our heads off bands like a lot of them are, but we actually have a concert band sound out there as far as its precision and the kind of music we play. With that said, with over 300 members, there's a lot of power there.
Yeah.
I remember you were mentioning the national championship game in Tempe in 80. I guess it was 87 when we were
January
actually-
2nd, 87.
Yeah. The Miami band was small in comparison to ours, and they weren't all that memorable, let's just say. I mean, they were nice enough. Some of them were nice enough. A lot of them were kind of jerks like the rest of them. But that's a little biased on my part, obviously, as a Penn Stater from back then. But But when we went on the field and I even remember some of the music we played. Toccata and Fugue was
Yes.
we
blew them away.
Yeah.
Da-da-da-da-dun.
Yeah, it was, and some of the other music that we played that
Was that?
day.
Did we do a company front?
Yeah,
the
it
last
was.
song
It was
America.
Stars and Stripes
Stripes
Forever.
Forever. Oh my God.
It was, very traditional songs, obviously, and again with that concert band sound, which completely filled the stadium and really shocked everybody there. I mean, it's like, wow, I can't believe this band.
And absolutely, and I can attest to that because I think almost every bowl trip that we did. I mean, you and I were on a bunch together.
A few, yeah.
Like, I mean, if you remember, like Holiday Bowl, my rookie year playing BYU, and I remember hearing afterwards, people saying how we knocked them over with because what we played that was the year we debuted Testify.
Yeah.
And
Wall of Sound there.
That's a
big,
just song.
powerful number.
I never.
So, playing against BYU, and we talk about like we're playing against BYU in marching band as if that's a thing. But there are winners and losers in marching band.
Sure.
And the blue band always wins at halftime.
So, playing against BYU and really mowing them down with that show. And then the next year against Florida State, they had a massive band. I think they had like 400 on the field.
Yeah, Florida State was pretty big.
They were huge, and yet they did a relatively sort of straightforward, like, let's do like popular movie themes, like they did Superman or whatever.
Yeah.
And we did. Do you remember what we did? Oh, we did the Rivers show, right?
Yeah.
Right. The like Old Man River and just this sort of very kind of just real powerful pieces that were really not the sort of thing that you would expect out of marching band.
Was that the show with the Teenage Mutant Ninja
I
Turtles?
swear every time you bring that up.
There's a lot of in joking here because during my time I had 2 national championship games, and Lou, his claim to fame is the Blockbuster Bowls.
Two Blockbuster Bowls.
They lost time to the Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles.
But
to piggyback on something Sean said in our style compared to, let's say, in Ohio State doesn't march woodwinds. So clarinets, piccolos, saxophones, they're all out. So it's definitely going to be a different sound. While we're more of more
balanced sound.
The blue band is more of a balanced sound.
Sure.
talking about the differences, the band's much bigger than when we were around. And I remember Dr. Deal once saying, as the stadium got bigger, the blue band had to get bigger because the formations were harder to see. If you tried to march 100 people, Joe the plumber, as Dr. Deal would say, Joe the plumber in the 100th and 50th row wouldn't be able to see anything.
Yeah.
So the band's 330. I think last year because of COVID it was 300, but usually 330. While at our biggest it was 265 for me.
270 for us.
270.
Yeah.
Sounds about close.
One difference, and I remember Dr. Drain at last homecoming had some of the students come over during our practice and basically do like squad rehearsals, and scales. It's okay, let's do scale number 3 and let's do that. And us old timers were like, what is he talking about? Like what? And that is something that's now become common, but we just showed up and played. And
Yeah,
left.
it's a lot. There's a lot more regimented practices and schedules for the kids today. But I'm hoping that the future of the band is going to be as bright as it has been in the past, with the size of the stadium and with the giant jumbo TV that they have there. The band is not as obvious a profit center as a commercial on the big screen. So I'm hoping that the university continues to recognize just the tradition of the band and not think of it as something that's
Passe.
we can make more money if we have a Mountain Dew ad or whatever.
Let's cut the band down a little bit, and that will
Right.
leave more time for
more room for paying customers.
On the flip side of that, the introduction of that multimedia component to the stadium, which is pretty much standard. I mean, that's just sort of the way that things have gone. But that actually presents opportunity for the band to be more a part of a multimedia show, which I think does make sense, and I know that they've started to do those sorts of things to integrate video. My son actually was on staff with the Blue Band. He was one of their videographers for 3 years. So I know that some of the projects that he had worked on were those multimedia projects, integrating what the band was doing with footage. I think they did like a Jeopardy show, right? They had the Lion and Coach Franklin were playing Jeopardy, and the band was doing the Jeopardy theme and whatnot.
Yeah.
So things like that, which have both a high level of audience interest, but a sophistication level in terms of performance for the band, and take advantage of the technology that the stadium now has to offer and will continue to offer.
And keeps the band relevant and fresh.
Right.
The one thing I would like to see, and it will be in our lifetime, I hope. Would be
ours.
Oh, thank you, buddy. A dedicated practice field.
Right on.
Right
Yeah.
now, the Blue Band practice on the intramural fields. So you cannot have a practice go late, because by 5:45, there are kids who want to play soccer or kids that want to play football. The worst was football.
I remember, and this is it's not the sports teams. It's intramural. It's like a pickup football game. Hey, the band's got to get off the field because we got my dorm playing, another dorm for whatever rinky-dink championship they had in pickup.
Gosh,
boy, you're a hater, Sean.
Don't sugarcoat.
You better not
Sean.
talk to
Tell
any
us how you
intramural
really feel.
kids. You're going to there's some intramural kids right outside. They're going to beat you up. I hated that they would just put field goal posts in the middle of your practice field. Like, Tom, you're out of spot. It's like, there's a field goal
Very large
post.
metal post.
Where I'm supposed to be. What do you want me to do?
That and on game day, the fact that
It's a parking
your
lot.
field is a parking lot.
Yeah.
That is also not cool.
We used to have to practice at like 6 or 7 in the morning, and the
they
cars would
open
be
the
like,
lots.
"Me, come on, I'm gonna park."
So
And we would have to leave.
a dedicated practice field is definitely something that the Blue Band desperately needs. So university folks, if you're listening to this, and I'm sure you all are,
I have
we
$2
definitely want
in
that.
my pocket.
Yes.
I'm ready to give.
Hey,
Right.
Let's get this
I'm,
started.
Well, there's a field right, like the building was made, and they have huge doors going to the field right next to it, but it's still being used for experimental grass,
turf
or
management,
something like that.
Oh, I thought they were cows or something. over there.
No, it's
No, the cows are across the street. That was
Oh,
always
okay.
fun. I think I dated a cow once. I would blow in my sousaphone really low, and the cow would be like, "Oh, moo."
It's an inappropriate, Tom.
Oh.
So I got a bit of a fun question for you that you guys might talk about.
Oh, like the
No,
previous
we don't
questions
like
were
any
not
fun
fun.
stuff. Come on, serious.
Do you guys have any funny stories from your blue band days?
I think I told mine.
Is that,
I don't know, how else did I
there's
screw up there, Lou?
So,
that is a very lengthy.
the hard thing is there's so many out, like, it'd be hard to choose one. It was funny. I was thinking of this one. We had a graduate assistant, and this was his first drill. He was really excited about it. And it was pretty good music. Kiev, I'm trying to remember.
Great Gate of Kiev?
Great Gate of Kiev.
Mazursky.
But he made a mistake, and I mean, it's a grad assistant. It's his first time. He put sousaphones and trombones at 1-step intervals, and those are the two biggest instruments, especially if the trombone has its slide all the way out. And he had the sousaphones then, after standing at 1 intervals, sousaphones going left and trombones going right, like we were separating. And we went through it for the very first time, and all you heard was clang, 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 because all of us hit each other's instruments, because it was just that. And it was like, Don, I think you might want to rethink this formation.
I remember that, even though I was a mellophone player, but I remember one of the stories that I had was we played Notre Dame in 1987 in November. It was a late game.
Oh, is this the coldest game in
This
the world?
was like the 32 below game.
Oh boy.
Tom
Oh,
and I,
you have no idea. We joke in this, and then actually we have a blue band that came after Lou, and we always rag on her because she's like, boy, the game's cold. And then we'd start, well, Aaron, there was a game in 1987, and nonstop. We always
here's
talk about
the
that.
story. Tom and I at the time were student managers as well. We were equipment handlers, so we would have to come to the stadium early and leave late to take care of the horns and whatever else needed to be done. It was extremely cold, obviously, 32 below with the wind chill, and our uniforms, as warm as they were in the summer, they were also not very warm in the winter. So we're Tom and I are out there, fixing horns. We're making sure that we're spraying the
Glycerol.
Slides
Glycerol.
and all of the valves
Moving parts.
with glycerol, which
Yeah.
To
has a
try and
lower
keep it,
freezing
yeah.
temperature. So
It didn't work.
instead of the oil. Well, after a while, we had everybody blowing through their horns constantly so that they wouldn't freeze up. By the time we got to the stadium and we did our halftime show, I believe it was
James Bond.
James
It was
Bond
the
show,
James
yeah.
Bond show.
There are times when, of course, you're not playing and you can't blow through your horn. So there were instruments that started freezing up. So you would have this big, James Bond theme right at the very beginning of the show. And then slowly it was lighter and lighter and lighter. And then all you could hear were the drums because everyone froze up. One of the things that happened was we saw some poor kid. He had his
trombone and
slide. He was
full
like
slide.
way out in like 7th position, or
And he
whatever
couldn't
it is.
pull it back in. It was just frozen solid.
So he had like this 10-foot instrument he's walking home with.
And he hit 3 sousaphones on his way home.
Yeah, I'm sure he did.
One was me.
We had white gloves.
I was going to say
that day,
you didn't get to that.
and the football players had this big jet heater to heat the benches. So after the halftime performance, a lot of us were coming off the field near those jets, and of course, all of us put our hands right up against it.
And then one of us read, you must be 10 feet away or something like that, 6 feet away.
Oh, forget that. It was so cold. I had my hand up so close that I melted the fingerprints right off of the glove, and the plastic of the glove melted into my, and I didn't have fingerprints for about a month.
Really?
It was, and I didn't feel it. It was so cold.
It's so cold. Yeah, your fingers are just
It
numb.
was
Yeah.
terrible.
Oh.
But I had never been so cold as that day.
The days that we have, sat in the cold or sat in the rain, and practiced in the snow or the rain, or sat in the stadium. And back in our day, if we used to joke, if it was overcast in Altoona, you're probably not getting on the field.
Yeah,
Because
Paterno was really like
he
the
was
band. I need to
very
protect the
adamant.
field. The band. It's like we're not even wearing cleats. Like,
Right.
we're not.
We have flat soles.
Soles.
I don't know whether.
But at the end of a season, if you look at the practice field, you could see what he was talking about. I mean, they are trenches from where we walk, but we could have marched more often.
Right. So I mean, if it's an overcast day or if it's a rainy day or whatever, not only to know, like, as you're there at practice, that I'm probably not going to get on today. Like this, you only got 7 home games a season, right? 6 or 7 home games a season. So to not to be able to do what it is that you came there to do, your contribution to the game day festivities was always heartbreaking.
Yeah.
And probably, like, no moment was more singularly heartbreaking than my very last game. So 93, Illinois was in town, and it was gross. I mean, the weather was gross. I woke up that morning and it was just downpouring. And we were just like, this is terrible. Not going to be able to march our last game in Beaver Stadium.
Did they even do pregame?
So, well, here's what happened. Let me tell the story, man.
Take forever.
So we're in the tunnel, and all of us who are in our final semester, and I mean, I was super senior, right? I mean, I had finished. This was now 4.5 for me, so it was my 5th season, and it was going to be my last game in Beaver Stadium, and we're all devastated. I mean, like, every one of us is just like, we're not going to get this. We're not going to get this. And one of our the way that things are lined up, sort of to shift in to get into the tunnel, is you wait for the players to come off the field, they come through, and then you shift in. The drummers are the ones who are up front because they're the ones who have to go out first. And one of the drummers caught Joe as he was coming off the field and was like, "Joe, we got seniors too," because it's senior day, right? I mean, so it's a football player's senior day too. He's like, "Joe, we've got seniors too. We want to march." Because it's a recognition day for us, right? For anybody who's ever seen it, when we hit the PSU monogram formation, there's all the underclassmen do a step kneel, and those who are marching their last season are the only ones who are standing, and then the announcer says everybody who's standing is in their last game, and it's kind of a big deal. It's a totally emotional moment, and every one of us breaks down as a result of that, and so. So, the drummer looks at Joe and says, we got seniors too. And Joe looks at him and says, okay, you guys can go on. And we went on in the rain to march pregame, which was the first time in anyone's memory that had happened. But we got to march our last game. We didn't march halftime because the field was obviously gross, and we were like, it's a Disney show. We didn't really want to march it anyway. So
wow, anti-corporation here.
I'm telling it like it is. So we were happy to play that from the stands, and I mean, those moments, there are fun moments, there are heartbreaking moments, right? The games that you're at where you're as into it as anybody is, right? And the team loses, and you're like, are we going to get to a bowl game? Or what's going to happen? What's the rest of our season going to look like? To these joyous moments where you're celebrating, like incredible victories, or just the great things that have happened, with you or your section mates, all of those things. It's this massive, like, couple of 100-member family, and you get to do all of these things with them. So that's why it's tough to answer your question do you have these fun moments, because I had 4.5 years of fun moments, and then all of those decades of being connected to all of these people through alumni band, welcoming in new students as they crossed off the one field to become a part of us. It's been nothing but fun moments, right?
Yeah.
We really missed homecoming this past year.
That was
hard.
I mean, I have a bed and breakfast in Center Hall, and every homecoming I block out the rooms. They're not for rent because they're for alumni Blue members to come back. and it's a blast because, and I'd say most of them I did not march with while in college.
Right.
Like Dave, I did, and Jim, I did, but Barb, Aaron, you, Jen did not.
And again, we may not have known them in college, a lot of these people, but now that we're in alumni band, we're as close to them as if we'd spent every day, as if we were roommates.
Roommates,
Very, very close to not just the men, but the women.
Mm-hmm.
They're as close as sisters to many of us and brothers. There's also been a number of marriages.
Blue band marriages. That's
and
a
blue band children and grandchildren,
yeah.
and I mean the Frisbee family now has, I think,
4 generations.
That's
I think.
Yeah, that's the
Wow.
thing. And there was
Legacy.
The younger one just married a blue bander.
Wow. So yeah, it's not just friends; it's family now.
Yeah. One thing and stories you mentioned that I would say the realization of the respect and admiration the blue band has did not come into full effect until the very first game. And I think we've mentioned it before. In our day,
Yeah.
you had your uniform. So when it was Saturday morning, you had to get a box lunch. You had to pre-order a box lunch. I mean, the band's not going to feed you like they do now. So I had to be in full uniform, go get my lunch, my box lunch, and then walk I was in South Halls. So I had to walk from South Halls, past East Halls, to the band practice field. And I remember going, and then all of a sudden I'm passing some of the dorms, and I hear all the windows, opening up, and I'm like, oh, here we go. I'm used to high school. Oh, you band, blah, 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 geek. What are you doing? Blue band, we love you. You're awesome. Knock 'em dead. You're going to kick butt today.
Yeah.
And I'm like, are they serious? Or is this sarcasm? All the way up. And I was like, this is different.
Yeah, the blue
This
band
is really different.
The blue band is loved on campus. By
And then
everybody.
I don't know if it was that game or the next game. Again, end of game, you're in full uniform, you just go. Now I had a school horn, I had to walk back to the band building. Or the trailers, no building. And this woman comes up to me with her son. It's like, can I take a picture of you with my son? My son, wants to be a musician. I'd love to have a picture with you and the son. And I was like, yeah, okay. And I posed with this kid who I'd love to know if that kid ever made it to the blue band and stuff. Yeah. But it was just like,
This
kid
was
weird.
Me.
That little kid was me.
Well, maybe this pod will find his way to that kid. So
that would be fun.
Yeah.
It was 1985-ish, probably 85 season. So if you're out there, give me a call.
You got a picture of a really good looking.
Yeah, I was good looking back then.
You
A little
were.
bit thinner.
We all were.
A lot of it. Yeah, once band ended, we kind of.
Yeah, you put
We
on
weren't
a
moving
lot
a
of weight
lot.
when you're not marching 180 beats a minute.
So I have some more personal questions, just for
Uh-oh.
just meant for individual people, but feel free to chime in. So Tom,
Never shy about that.
Yeah.
Why are you the way you are? Very
If you were a tree, what
Explain
tree would you
yourself.
be?
you're a member of the alumni council.
I
and
was.
Or you
a member
were?
of the alumni. Yeah, I'm no
Okay.
longer an alumni council.
Are you still on the board of directors for the Blue Band Alumni Association?
Yes, I am. I was just elected to the Alumni Blue Band Association. Yes.
Congrats, Tom.
Oh, why? Thank you, Lou.
So why did you feel it was necessary to continue your involvement in the band and with the university?
Oh, wow. I think going back to what I had mentioned before, the Blue Band gave me so much.
Mm-hmm.
I always feel indebted to the Blue Band, and to me, this is just one way.
I feel kind of indented, frankly.
Wow, that trombone hit my sousaphone and dented it. But to me, it's just a way of giving back. I think also my perspective of things, it can add a lot to the board. I was on the board years ago. Actually, both of you guys.
Yeah.
All three of us were on the Alumni Blue Band.
We've all served our terms. Yeah.
served is a good term.
Years before the mast.
But we all gave back, and I think we all can give our own perspective and spin on things. There's a lot of push right now to get more involvement from the younger alums, and I had some ideas that I wanted to share, but who would I share it with? I mean, joining the board, I'm in a position that I can actually share it and maybe do something about it.
I think for the three of us who have written these books on the band, obviously they're not going to be New York Times bestseller beach reads. We didn't make a dime off of them. We did it purely as a labor of love. I mean, for the first book that came out that Tom and I worked on, the information about the history of the band was scattered to the four winds.
Yeah.
I mean, it was in this place and that place. It was in the personal with personal band members. It was the stories of the older alums that were passing away. These stories were dying out, obviously, and the history was disappearing. So we made a concerted effort to preserve the history, and though the book has been very successful, we did it so that the history could be preserved, and because of the love that we have for the organization, and more importantly, the people that have been in it, not just the ones that we personally knew, but all the ones that that preceded us, that shared
created the history,
that shared our experiences, and for those in the future that continue to share those experiences that we've been so blessed to have.
Well, between the three of you, why would you say it's important to honor the history of Penn State and to understand the history?
I think that look, from my perspective, history is a personal responsibility, right? It's not the institution's responsibility, right? Because an institution is ultimately comprised of individuals, and knowing that here's an organization that we loved, here is something that we cared about, but if we do not act, right, and this is the same for any organization, it doesn't matter who it is, if we as individuals do not act in order to preserve that history, to preserve those stories, then they vanish, and then everybody just kind of shrugs and goes, well, it's always been this way, and we don't know, So if you don't know that women weren't always in the band, then you just assume that they always were, and so there's that now that's a chunk of history that is just completely lost. So you have to be personally responsible. It's not somebody else's responsibility. It's your individual responsibility to say it's our role and responsibility to preserve the history so that we save that which has come before for those that are coming after. That's always the way that it should be.
I remember the impetus that Sean and I were the very first idea of writing down the history or doing something. And it was my senior year. And
we were still in college.
We were still in college, and a video came out and said, "Ladies and gentlemen, the Penn State Blue Band," And I was in an interview for it, but Jay Zigas,
the former drum major.
Former drum major was also, and he was simply asked, "So when did the drum major flip start?" And his answer, and I'm paraphrasing, was something like, "Some guy did it a bunch of years ago, and ever since we've done it." And I'm like, oh, we should really know who that person was, and we really should know what year that happened. And Sean was like, yeah, but that became a back burner, and it wasn't until 10 years later that the Blue Band was turning 100, and we were like, boy, we'd really like to do something special. Wouldn't it be neat to have something to preserve the history, like Lou, you eloquently, were you an English person?
I was an English person.
Eloquently.
Sounds like it's your first language.
I'm quite proficient.
To pick up from what Tom was saying, we discovered in our research that different photographs, different people that no one would know about, history that no one knew about. the Blue Band was the first to broadcast on national radio.
That's right.
In the
610
early 20s.
down in Philly.
That and also New York.
Yeah.
It was the first to do many different things, and a lot of people didn't know. We have the story of how the flip came to be from interviewing the guy that did that
Did the
first
flip, you know.
And
10, 20 years from now, will that person still be with us?
many of the interviews that we did back in 1998, 99, when we wrote the book, many of those older alums have passed away.
Yeah.
And so their stories are now forever preserved in a way that people that have a living memory of, say, Hummel Fishburne, the director from the 1930s, 40s, and early 50s, in a way that today there's hardly anybody left that does remember his days or any of that time period. So it is very important that we do preserve that kind of history, because it's not one of the great things about the history of the Blue Band, and especially in the books that the three of us have written.
Mm-hmm.
The Blue Band can be kind of a mirror of what was going on, not just at the university, but surely that, like with Title IX and those kinds of things that happened at a collegiate level.
Outside forces.
But
the larger world.
But the larger world, Pennsylvania, in the world, the stories of what was going on with the band during World War I, World War II, Vietnam, and 9/11, and those kinds
COVID
of
this past year.
COVID this past
COVID,
year,
where
for
the
sure.
band never even performed
That's
on the field.
So there's a lot of history that's reflected through the experience of being a band member during those times. That's important to record, and frankly, it's interesting and exciting to read about.
And it's not just Blue Band people, Penn State people. Now
Right.
I remember right after we wrote it, Karen Walk, who was the Blue Band administrative assistant, said,
Right.
I look through that book every day. If someone asks me a question, I grab the book. Who was the drum major in 19 blah, blah, blah? Well, we had that. To piggyback on something what Lou said, that if you don't know the history, you just assume it's always been that way. When I joined the Blue Band in '85, there were women in the band. I didn't know there was only women in the band for the past 10 years.
Right.
You know, now women are about 2/3 of the band. But in 1974,
73 was the first year that officially
they
were
could
in the band.
Well, here's the major thing. Could they audition, but no one wanted to audition because it was pretty much an all-male
Boys
thing
club.
or whatever? But they were from 5. You know, they were just 5 female musicians
Right.
that would
The
perform.
year before that, Judy Shearer was the
First
first
majorette.
majorette, and the only female in the band. And before that, the only time that women were ever in the marching part of the Blue Band, they had been in the concert band for many years, was during World War II, when the men, of course, were shipped overseas. And then once they started rotating back, of course, they weren't in the band anymore. So there's history, and the Title IX fight that they struggled through, and other occasions like that are important to understand and learn from. I think it's very important to preserve all of that and to demonstrate it in an exciting fashion.
Yeah.
Well,
I agree.
I can say, like, I'm from a Penn State family. Like, my dad went to Penn State. My brother just graduated from Penn State in 2018. I've been, knowing I was going to go to Penn State ever since I was like 3 years old. So reading through these books was like a real treat, just to be able to see all these different pictures and learn about these kinds of things. Because like you don't learn about this every day unless you go out to actually learn about it yourself.
Right.
So having books like these really are important for people like me, or people just want to learn about the university they go to in general. It's a good piece of history and piece of information to have on hand.
You can only imagine the number of other stories that this university has to offer that has these sort of like small, like little compartmentalized segments of history, of stories that still need to be told, right? That have a history that people really would be interested in, but that nobody outside of this little pocket of of us as such a sprawling university knows about. That I think we'd all love to hear those stories. So if you're out there, you should
Start writing. Start writing now.
And come on the podcast.
Absolutely.
What I find interesting through the whole history of the band is that almost every single decade has something to offer. There's something happened during the 50s that, was important, or 40s. I still think the 70s and the 2000s are probably the two biggest most significant changes for the blue band have gone through. But I think any decade you could pick something out and say, oh yeah, that's when the band did this, or that's when that happened.
This started.
And like anything, if you have a love for the subject, of course you're going to be more interested in it. But I think there's lessons to be learned from it too. You can go into any of the histories of these particular books about the band, and if you have a question about what happened in the past, or if you have a wonder what it was like during here on campus back in whatever year you want to pick, there's something to learn and maybe take away for the future that you have. Histories are not written for the past; it's written for the future.
For the future. Mm-hmm. For the future that we wait.
Raise the song.
Raise the song.
I've heard that before.
Yeah.
What's
sound
that
familiar.
from? What's that from?
Mostly we wrote these books because people buy us beers when they hear them.
That's a big perk, right?
And as Sean says,
and pretty much the only perk, frankly.
he made up half the history before 1930 because no one's around. No one can. No, that didn't happen. It's like,
well, you look at a story like, why did the blue band get to be called the blue band?
I bet you a lot of people don't.
Yeah, things like that you don't even think about until it's like a question put in front of you.
Right.
Blue. Do they play the blues? Well, yeah. Why is the blue band?
Now you'll have to buy and read the book. To learn.
Now available at any
Find
store.
out for yourself.
So, Lou, you're a member of the English department here at Penn State, correct?
Yes. Well, I was. As of last week, I actually formally retired from the
good for
classroom.
you.
So, 27 years in the classroom,
Education.
and it's kind of a relief to not be doing that anymore.
Good for you. Happy retirement.
Thank you very much.
So, how did your band experiences? Did they prepare you at all for your teaching job or being a professor at Penn State, or not?
Oh,
really?
yeah, absolutely. I mean, we've all talked about the idea that that all of us have had some form of leadership experience, right? Mm-hmm. And teaching is leading. It's to stand in front of a classroom, to design a plan of action, to see a group of students through, whether that's a semester or if it's a year, whatever sort of experience you're working in, is absolutely something that that band, my band experiences definitely, band experiences in general absolutely do teach you, give you those kinds of skills. You're it's the same, I think, with any organization that you're ever a part of, right? You come in, you're a rookie, you're fresh, you're green, you don't really know. In band, you come in, like for a collegiate band, almost everybody comes in with a high school band experience, right? So you know how it was done in your little neck of the woods, but then you have to sort of relearn things.
Yeah, small fish in the big pond.
Right, exactly, right. And, sort of adapt to, okay, well, you might have done it that way, but now this is the way you're going to do it. So you spend your first year or so, being the student again. And then you move up, and now there's a new crew of rookies that are coming in, and now you've got this level of experience. So, when you're in a squad, with, 3 other people, and almost inevitably one of them is going to be a rookie, your turn to look at them and go, it's okay, here's what it is you need to do. And at that moment, right, you become a teacher, right? So the fact that it was my chosen profession, right, from the time I was a sophomore in high school, I decided I was going to teach, and I was going to teach English. But not only did I get a sense of what it means to be a teacher out there on the practice field, working with a squad, sometimes teaching your squad leader what it is. I'm pointing directly at Sean when I'm saying that. But you're working with those new rookies that are coming in who are just as fresh as you were, and then in terms of my arc, becoming a section leader, right? Sort of standing one of those guide positions, and then not just teaching, one person, but then working with and running all the rookies for our section through band camp and teaching them music and teaching them marching and teaching them the traditions. And it didn't matter for all of us whether I was going to become a teacher or whether I was, whether we were, an engineer or whatever. Everybody becomes a teacher, right? So everybody gets that experience. And for me, it was important because, I took those lessons and I brought them into the classroom without question.
Yeah.
But everybody's a teacher, right? So, whatever profession it is that you're going into, you learn how to look at somebody else and be like, don't worry, we're going to be able to figure this out. You're going to get the hang of it. And then showing them the ropes and the skills that they need to be able to succeed in the future. Band absolutely supports that every step of the way.
I think for myself too. Now, of course, the leadership position I had was to delegate to my younger fellows like yourself.
It was a pity role, Sean. I mean, you were there for 5 years. There's like, let's give
You'd
him
think I
this.
would have learned something. No, for me, I'm a Methodist minister, and being able to stand in front of my congregation to speak to proclaim the word in front of them that I've written, that to explain to them and to teach is the Blue Band definitely had helped me be able to do that, to be in front of people, not be to help me speak publicly, to take leadership roles in different councils and different.
And to have confidence.
And to have
To
confidence.
have that confidence to
To
be
know
able to do
what
that,
you're
right?
speaking about
Yeah.
and being able to speak it.
Right. And just the discipline that the band gave to me helped me do just that. It helped me write the book that about the Blue Band itself.
I think that, sort of connected to that, and absolutely, I'm feeling that same sense that you're talking about. What we do is, amazingly, what we do is not competitive, it's cooperative, right? The band is a completely cooperative environment, right? Where everybody wants everybody else to succeed. You're not looking at somebody else in your section and being like, I got to push them down in order to raise myself up. You want every single person to be fully and completely skilled and versed and prepared to be able to present the best possible image. And isn't that ultimately what the process of education is about, right? It's not I want you to succeed, but I want you to fail. It's I want everybody to succeed. I want everybody to be lifted up in that way. So whether you're, as a minister in the pulpit, or me, standing in front of a classroom, or Tom, and you taught as well. That it's that same thing, to have the confidence to not only to know your discipline, to know what it is that you're talking about, but then to be able to look at somebody else and imbue them with confidence too. That's
one thing that, and you could tell, marching band or whatever, the punctuality. That if you're early, you're on time, but if you're on time, you're actually late, and if you're late, you sat out. You were out. You did not march the next game, or you didn't do pregame or something like that.
Yeah, I got up at 4 a.m. just to be here.
That's true. Another pity thing. You're full of pity. But, how does that transform you into your everyday life? Like, you go to a job interview, you better not be late. You go to your normal job, you better not be late. And that just, I live by those words. And I actually get frustrated when people are late. It's like, but weren't you in the band? What's wrong with you?
I'll be honest with you. All the training that I had at Penn State in the discipline that I had in logistics prepared me for my future when I was in the business world, and it trained me also later when I went into ministry. but I received no better life training from Penn State than the lessons that I learned while I was marching with my comrades in the Blue Band.
Yeah, and the ability to communicate with people from different backgrounds and different areas. Like Sean and I came from a very big school, and I met people that graduating class of 40 people, and it never even dawned on me that they might not have had a calculus class. They might not have had this. I think
kids from the country, kids from the inner city, kids from
all
the
over.
suburbs, the north, south, everywhere. Yeah.
And I was going to say with teaching and helping me with teaching, when people found out I was in a marching band, undoubtedly you had students that were in a marching band, and your street cred with those students automatically went up.
But
and
down with the jocks.
You know what? The jocks, all the jocks I ever taught kind of respected the band, especially like I got some football players.
Yeah.
And, when I showed them, well, here are some of my drills that I had to do in college and in high school. And he was like, well, that's a lot like my playbook. Like you had to be at this pot at a certain time. And
you make a connection.
Yeah, there was a connection there.
Do you have any like big name football players either of you taught at Penn State?
Big time football players?
Um,
Well, no, you had some while you were at Penn State.
I'm not entirely sure if I'm supposed to name drop that because I mean
Okay.
there actually is a current member of the team
That you
I'm
failed.
I did not. No, he did just fine. There is a current member of the team who was in my class as a freshman.
Okay.
But I'm pretty sure that I'm not supposed to reveal that
Okay.
information. But yes, I did have one current member of the team. I did have a few other. I've actually had I had lacrosse players, men and women, basketball players, men and women. So I had a variety of tennis player. Yeah, I had a tennis player. So I've had a variety of different students come through my class here at the university. Yeah.
Yeah, I've had a couple interactions with some people on the football team, like and other sports teams in general, in some of my classes. I'm not going to name drop them either, but
Right on.
Yeah.
So well, actually, one of the interesting. So the other thing that I do, just sort of part time, and have been for like the last 4 years, is I work at the All Sports Museum at the stadium, which is always a great amount of fun. In part because of the number of people have come in, and one of our '94 lettermen came in just the other day, and he was a hoot to talk to, just about his experiences being on the '94 team and that. So that's always a nice experience. But the other end of that, of course, is prospective students and their families that come through, and I'm the blue bander on staff, right? So if somebody comes in and they're like, yeah, we're looking at the university, we really like it, whatever, and so and so he or she is in marching band in high school, and they'll be like, hey Lou, come over here because this kid's interested in the university and wants to talk blue band, and yeah, we'll talk blue band. I had one just last weekend I was in, and she was like, how tough is it to make the blue band? And I'm like, I'm not gonna lie, kid, you're gonna have to work at it. It's not gonna be a gimme. And your best bet is to make sure that you've practiced and really worked to because if you're gonna get it, you're gonna earn it.
One of the great things about being in the blue band too is that as a student it does teach you discipline, and that it does teach you to budget your time, to because there's so many hours of practice a week that you have to go through. And I imagine the athletes, student athletes are
Go
the
through the
same way.
Same thing.
They have to have a discipline to make sure they keep their grades up. And for them, I think for the most part, the blue band has one of the higher grade point averages of any student
There've
organization.
been studies that if you're in extracurricular, your grades actually are better. A lot of people think extracurricular activities will take away your time from studying and things like that.
The opposite is true.
But it's the opposite. It actually makes you be more time management, and you're not sitting in front of the TV and it's like, oh, that was a good show. Oh, the second one's here. Oh, I'll stay there. You come home and say, okay, I have to spend an hour on this because I just spent 2 hours on that.
You only have an hour to drink beer, so.
Yeah.
Well, I've also heard that there's a correspondence between good grades with people in music and people that aren't in music? Like people that are in like their band in high school tend to have better grades than people that aren't in music.
It
Yes.
seems like the studies have supported the idea that specifically music education has a very positive impact on learning structure, on the way that you know, connect pathways inside of your brain, and thus breeds a greater degree of success overall. Yeah.
Yeah, it's critical thinking, but it also touching on Lou again. It's the collaboration with other people. You know, this section of this piece of music, I can't be louder than that person because that person is the solo. But when it comes to me, they'll get quieter, and I'll. That
sort of group project mentality where one person ends up doing all the work and everybody else just kind of goofs off.
That
or whatever.
does not happen.
Like everybody experiences that, right? And it's hugely frustrating. And marching band is not the place where that happens because everybody knows that it can't, right? Everybody knows that they have to pull their weight. So it creates that sense of interconnected responsibility where everybody knows that I am, as one individual, I am just as important as everybody else is, and that I can't sit this out, right? I have to be on my game, and everybody else has to be on their game, right?
So Sean,
Yeah.
Lou wrote into the game during the acknowledgments that the mellophone was like the overlooked middle child of marching band instruments.
Yeah, pretty much.
Do you agree with that idea?
Oh my, yes.
Time out. First, why call it a mellophone? It's just a big trumpet.
It's not.
It's full of people who could not make the trumpet line.
One of the great things is you can always tell you're talking to somebody who's familiar with marching bands or not when they ask you what instrument you play.
And you say mellophone.
When I say mellophone and they go blink, blink, you know, okay, it's like a big trumpet.
Yeah.
It's like
I always
horn.
say it's the marching version of a French horn. And sometimes they get that too. So
Yeah, but some people don't. Don't
some
even
people
know what a
don't
French
even know
horn
that.
is.
I believe so. A lot of the a French horn is a mellophone is it's kind of an unusual instrument. I think there isn't a whole lot written for it as far as like solos or doesn't have the cachet of say a trumpet player or
We excel at off beats.
right, exactly. There's a lot of support role that we play with it. But one of the things I've noticed about the mellophone section is we're one of the tightest sections in the band, and it's also it's one of the most mixed as far as men and women are concerned too.
Very true.
Which was great for Lou and I.
Right.
If you're a tuba player, you got 30 tubas and not one of them's a woman.
Not true. There was one.
All right. Well, I guess
At one
true.
time,
That's
and then
become-
she graduated, and then another one.
That's
showed
become
up.
more diverse though. So
That's true
these
too.
days,
That's
things
true
have
too.
changed.
Well, back in our day, it was not as
Back in our day.
But yeah, I think it was great to play mellophone because it was an interesting instrument, and we were
think
kind
it
of
was-
the scrappy underdogs of the band. I think.
Yeah,
you know?
it was unique, and I like the out of the ordinary. I mean, I love the solos, but obviously I love the counter melodies, and you guys definitely. I always in orchestra I would consider you guys violas.
Yeah,
You know,
pretty much.
You rarely got the solo, but listening to the group without it
Right.
would not be as good.
And every once in a while, you'd get a really good part, like in Testify.
Right.
And Testify, and I'm thinking "Soak Up the Sun."
Soak up
Right,
the
Soak
sun.
Up the Sun.
Yeah.
You know, you had some nice things.
So-
Sousaphones were all bum 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 bum
Mhm.
bum 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 bum
Yeah.
bum 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 bum. It's we rarely, except I think the circus show, we had one solo that a good friend Dave Arnoldi could play, and I could not. I blew my cheeks out a lot, like, but that's about it.
Sean's point that the mellophone section tends to be the tightest section. We legit as a section we cared about each other. You kind of as a mellophone knew that you weren't really like anybody else in the band. You weren't the high flyer like
I
the
like the
trumpet was.
underdogs. You guys were the underdogs.
But again, it's that same sense. I refer to the band as having this sense of quiet grace, and within the band, I think the mellophones had that sense of quiet grace.
We wish you were more quiet.
We that's not even funny. We legit cared about each other. We were a tight group of people who who kind of, we knew why we were there. We weren't glory hounds. We weren't looking to, sort of be front and center. We knew our place and our role, and we loved doing it.
Doggone it, we were the backbone of the band, Lou.
Is that what we
I
were?
wouldn't say that.
We might be overstating the case.
It might have been a
little
little toe.
Couldn't have done Sousa without us. So
Yeah.
Do you think there's any other like overlooked marching band instruments? Or
No.
would you say it's mostly?
Absolutely not.
Piccolos,
Next
I was
question,
just about
please.
to say the piccolos. The
Piccolos,
piccolos
yeah.
are very much now. I don't know. Do they now have a full rank of piccolos?
I'm not sure.
In my day, they were just
six of them, right?
Just six.
It was a very elite section.
They had to be good marchers because everyone could play very well. So the only way to decide, is this person going to be in the band or not, is let's have them march, and they would take the 6 best marchers.
I definitely think they were they're a little underrated, especially since the vast majority of them, because they're such a small section, they're like all state champion high school.
Yeah, first chair,
first
chair that.
So they're among the best musicians in the band. Maybe
I was thinking saxophones, maybe. Some of the saxophones might feel.
I'm sure. Well, if we're going to go that far, we might as well just say clarinets are underrated.
I always feel bad for the clarinets because almost every single high school band is chock full of clarinets. And then you come up to the blue band and clarinets, 2 ranks? It's compared to trumpets, which is 20 to 30% of the band, and then you have 2 ranks of trombone, and it's brass heavy. We do march woodwinds, so we're different from Ohio State. We again, dang it. The blue band still marches woodwinds, but just not as many. Mm-hmm. So you have all these clarinetists coming in, and let's say it's 70 to 100, but there's only 20 spots.
I have a good clarinet story, believe it or not.
Hardly right.
Yeah, a lot of pressure. When Dr. Ned Deal wrote the pregame show with the famous floating lions.
Oh, yeah.
The famous floating lion. Originally, the stadium was built.
The tunnel was the north.
Was on the opposite side.
That was on the
And it is
opposite
now.
side. And so when he wrote the drill so that they were coming from the one side, and when the big fanfare happened as the line started floating, the trombones were in the lead. Of course, that would be
they were the
that
A
would make
rank,
the
A
most
rank, B rank, C
make
rank.
most sense.
Visually and musically.
In 1959, when they built New Beaver Stadium, when they flipped it around so that the tunnel entrance was the other side. Unfortunately, he didn't rewrite the drill at the time, and so who was leading the big fanfare when they came out?
Was the clarinet?
The clarinets. It just didn't. And so he had, and I believe he said something to the effect of, I had to rewrite the drill so the trombones would be in the lead as God intended.
Yes. No, I think he said he couldn't write it as God intended.
Oh, right. Okay, that's it.
Or
That's it.
actually, it might have been a trombone player
Yeah.
that said that too.
But anyway, I always thought that was kind of funny to see the clarinets would lead out the
The
lion.
mighty fanfare.
But you have to admit, and just like the piccolo players, most of the clarinet players must be really good.
Yeah.
They got to be taught.
Well,
sure.
in reality, all the musicians in the band are really good, and as you had mentioned before, the vast majority of them are not
Music
majors. And in fact, back when we were students, I don't know if this is still the case. I don't want to disparage anybody, but it seemed like the music majors, the performance majors, were actively discouraged from being
in the
blue band.
There was a lot of talk about it ruins your embouchure and all this other stuff. Yeah, I think the relationship between the school of music, like marching band, was actually like under music education for a while,
for a long time,
and for a little while it was actually a gym class, which I would have preferred. I would have liked that
great
credit
to
to
get a
count
gym
towards
credit.
the gym credit, physical education credit, but then it became a Music 81.
Yeah.
music credit, and then you're like, well, this doesn't help my major at all.
Yeah, the Blue Band has actually been in a number of different departments and schools throughout its history. Originally, it was part of the Department of Military Sciences.
Really?
As a cadet.
Well, it was a
band.
cadet band, so it was there to just do
And
music for formations.
And
drills.
as the university realigned different times, the latest in '62 when they had truly a university system, and the College of Arts and Architecture formally became the College of Arts and Architecture from being the School of Fine Arts. There was a lot of realignments of different majors into the different schools, including music and music education, and the Blue Band were in schools such as the School of Education, then finally School of Fine Arts, and then finally in Arts and Architecture, where it belongs, I suppose.
Yeah.
But so yeah, there's been a lot of movement over the years as to where it belongs.
To give you an idea, so when it first started out, the offices for music, and specifically the cadet band, were at Old Main.
Right.
And then from Old Main,
To
Penn
the
State
Armory.
Library was made, so Carnegie Library was changed to Carnegie Building, and then the band offices were in Carnegie.
Right.
There was offices in
The Armory.
the Armory for
Armory.
a little bit, and then they ended up in Chambers. That was during our time until they moved to Music Building 2, and then from Music Building 2 they actually got a building.
the
but
Blue Band
They were-
like the uniforms used to be in the basement of Music Building 1. Music was in the band office, wherever the office might be.
in
it was all
Chambers,
scattered.
and then the instruments, the school instruments, were out in the trailers.
They
out
were in the
field,
trailers, and then
In the shed.
off season.
in the shed.
Oh yeah, and then there was a shed, the shack before the band building, and then the instruments would be moved when they were out in the trailers. Would be moved to Music Building 3 in the basement.
We had that ancient truck that we had to use.
Oh my God! Dean Otto broke
Classic.
his arm off of that.
Oh yeah,
It was
I
his
remember
arm or his leg?
that. Was the arm.
I think it was his arm. The announcer for Penn State football, Dean DeVore, was in the Blue Band with us, and he hopped a ride on the truck, and the truck took a turn too much, and he got thrown off and broke his arm. But don't tell anyone.
Funny stories. Funny.
Especially Dean, because I don't know how much he likes to admit that he was in the band before.
Oh, he likes no. He announced.
That's true. He is actually a big supporter of ours. So.
The moral of the story, I think, really, is that it's funny, peculiar, not so much funny, haha. How the marching band has just been looked at and kind of been like, what do we do with you guys? Like where do
what
you
do
belong? Where are you supposed to be?
Where do we go
who's,
from here?
Whose authority are you supposed to be under? What part of the university do you belong to? And it's been our growth as an organization has been sort of commensurate with the university's growth as an organization,
Right.
as it grew and reinvented itself over the decades. To figure out where does it belong in the place of education overall. So too has the band been.
Well, the
sort of-
band's now under the
I agree with
athletic
that.
department.
Right.
I mean, when Dr. Deal retired, they decided, okay, we're going to split off the Blue Band, and that will be athletic bands, and then there'll be the concert bands and the symphony bands, orchestras, and all this
Right.
other stuff. The wind.
Right.
And then the athletic bands grew, so it wasn't just the Blue Band. It became Pride of the Lions and the hockey and
volleyball and
all
Sure.
these other organizations. But yeah, and is that our home now? I mean,
I believe. Well, for now, until the university realigns again.
right.
I believe that. Because originally, like I said, we were in the Department of
that
Military
was
Science.
96, was it?
Yeah, when we
When-
went to athletics.
The only constant is change.
Yeah.
Very pithy.
Thank you.
Wow. You should write that
I'm going to
down.
write that down.
So history is obviously a big theme in these books, but another big theme was collaboration because you guys got a lot of different pictures and like quotes and facts from a bunch of different people.
Yep.
What was it like getting all these different people together to learn about the Blue Band?
It's the
and
best.
Yeah,
right?
everyone had a story and would love to share the story. And The most recent book, I am so thankful for Edith Murray, and she's one of the first women that were in the band from 1946. I mean, and she and her twin came to Penn State, wanted to audition for orchestra, and Hum Fishburne said, "What do you guys think about marching band? Hey, we're kind of light there. We could use you."
During the war.
And what was it, 47? 44.
Yeah.
I'm sorry, 44.
Yeah, it would have been 40. Yeah,
And,
she graduated in 46.
One was oboe, and the other was clarinet. And the clarinet could play in the marching band, but there's no oboe in the marching band.
Clarinet or flute? Why do I
Flute.
Flute. Yeah.
And the cymbals. The
oboe
oboe
player.
was given cymbals to play. But
Oh, I remember that story, yeah.
yeah, being able to talk to people that we have the same experience, but not really have the same experience. Like we have this major overlap, the blue band, but then there's all these different little offshoots. And how did you join the band? And did you always know that you wanted to be in the blue band? And what was your leadership position? And to learn about the flip and to learn about women in the band, to learn the history of the feature twirler, learn when silks became silks and not just people holding flags. It was great talking to people, and you still, and now we have a whole new generation that we can talk to for the new book, which will work on 2024.
Right.
Yes.
125th anniversary.
The best thing I think about this experience, right, is the idea that just like the band itself, the effort to create the books was collaborative, right? We could not have done it without talking to people and finding their experiences and getting their pictures and all of those things. It is even though it's our names on the cover, but every single person who that we credit in it, and contributed to it is part of that larger blue band family and recognizes the need to preserve the history. So,
and probably one of the most important, and probably the current blue band officers don't realize this, but probably one of the most important officer position, is historian. Because we were so dependent on what these blue band historians, and at the end of the season, the historian was supposed to make basically a photo book of pictures and get all the history together, and that would be shown at the banquet, and then it would be given to the blue band office.
Right.
All of that stuff was now moved to Petit Library Archives, but we were thumbing through books from the 40s and the 50s and the 60s and the 70s, and it was just fascinating that these people did such a great job. We actually ended up having a problem in the 90s because the historian decided, well, if I'm just showing this at the band banquet, I'll make a slideshow or I'll make a DVD or a video or something like that. And then all of a sudden, we didn't have something real easy to look through to find out who were the officers that year. Well, I mean, I can open up this page and it's like, here's, the officers this year.
Right. The job of historian changed.
Yeah.
So
I think we've talked to historians, and I currently have talked to the current historian, letting them know how important it is to actually have a written document of something that people can see years from now. I don't want to go through a whole video trying to find out who the president is, because very rarely will they actually have something that says president or vice president. It will just be, hey, here's practice. Here's the game we went to. Here's this. So,
yeah, without any information behind it, I think
things lack context.
Right, exactly.
So the challenge, of course, these days is that everything is sort of moving into a more digital format. I don't think that anybody expects that a historian is going to sit down and scrapbook. It's okay that they don't do that, but there has to be that compendium, even if it's on a disk or on a thumb drive or stored on a Google Drive or whatever. But there has to be a compendium. There has to be something that chronicles,
not just a slideshow.
that chronicles this season, right, this past year, and has all that information in it. Because without it, things are going to get lost. And now, without having an archive to be able to run back through then things are going to get lost.
Right. Of all the submissions you guys got for these books, was there one that stood out in particular to you?
Say again, I'm sorry.
Well, throughout these books, you have a lot of different submissions from people.
Yeah.
And like pictures and stuff. Did you have any pictures or any submissions or any stories that you heard in particular that really stood out to you?
I'm gonna be completely biased for the most recent book because of the fact that my son was with the band, and doing photography and videography with him. There were the official photos that he took, for the band and videos that he shot for the band, and then there was other stuff that he took that really just sort of captured these sort of beautiful and simultaneously artistic moments. For me, there's one of his that he took that is my absolute favorite. It was a shot from Homecoming at the very end. We're doing post game, and so after the end of post game block, the band sort of breaks down, everybody sits down, and then the drums will do what's traditionally been called the corner concert. And for Homecoming, it always starts with the alumni drums, right? So the oldest alums will get up and do parade order from their years. So, maybe from 30 or 40 years back. And Jake got sort of behind, so there's the press boxes is sort of like in the background, and then there's the massed bands of alumni and current student bands, and there's 4 alumni drummers, right? And he's right at sort of field level, and he kind of shoots this up, and it was kind of a yucky day, so it was a little bit gray and just a little bit foggy, and it's just a beautiful image, and I think that it captures so much of what his experience was, what my experience was, of being a student and having these alums come back, of being an alum and coming back, and seeing these 4 guys playing parade order from their year that they had, spent a little bit of time, working back out again because they hadn't seen each other, in a year or 2 or whatever. That image means absolutely everything to me. I'm so grateful that he got that shot, and I was so glad that we could put it in.
I had mentioned Edith and Edna and having those images, and I would say, if not image but story, in the first book, we tried to piece together the history of the feature twirler, and after that book, one of the feature twirlers reached out and said, "You kind of grasp it, but it's more like this." And in the second book, we were a lot more concrete, saying, okay, so Judy was the first majorette, and she was featured in one of the shows, but she didn't wear a different costume. She was never made the feature twirler. Then Laurie Donaldson was actually, okay, you're going to be our feature twirler. You're going to wear a different uniform from everybody else. So she became the feature twirler, but there was no name associated with it. And then Lori Bowers came after Laurie Donaldson, and she was the first one to actually be known as the Blue Sapphire. And then she let us know that actually the first name for the feature twirler was Star Sapphire. But someone asked Dr. Deal at the time, well, what color is it? Because Star Sapphires come in many colors. So they said, make it blue. So she's the only one to ever be known as the Star Sapphire.
Wow.
And then Blue Sapphire. But the getting it right is very important, because, I mean, when we're all gone 50, 60, 100 years from now.
That's ambitious.
Well, I'll still be here. I told Maureen to freeze my brain and just put it in the robotic
Not
body.
already frozen?
Oh, ouch, hater. But people are going to come back and look at these books and be like, okay, this is, like, these define the history of the Blue Band, and other like the Collegian or other places are going to pull from that and be like, when was the drum major flip, or when did this happen, or when did that happen?
It's important to get it right.
Yeah. We tried to be as scrupulous as possible, getting the history correct, corroborating different accounts, but we especially since it's once you've written it down as the definitive history, you're looked at as the source for information. So it's important that you get it right.
Yeah.
So we did the best we could with some of the information that we had as we researched the topic was lost or was scattered or shot, scarce. And then more information comes to light. And so as the books have gone on, they've corrected a lot of things.
I didn't even know Edith and Edna existed.
Yeah.
When we wrote the first book or the second
Sure.
book, it wasn't until, I think the Alumni Association brought them back for a homecoming, and we're like, hold on, who's this? I didn't know. The one image that pops in my head is the one that actually it was used for the cover of a phone book down in Florida. But it was a picture of the blue band in the PSU in a formation at a bowl game that we were down. That again, the blue band was down for. I'm trying to remember what. I think it was a Gator Bowl or something like that. But
yeah, it was
the Bell Atlantic phone book used that image. I guess the person in charge didn't know that was the blue band performing on the field, not
That's an
Florida
interesting little
Gators.
piece of history right there.
Yeah.
So I want to backtrack a little bit. You mentioned you're going to be having another book coming out in 2024.
We've been discussing and
It's been the
talking
plan.
about it. It will be the 125th anniversary of the Blue Band. The most recent one, I don't want to say it was a whim. It was just kind of like, hey, we could do this, and Lou and I just got together and did it. I mean, we wrote that sucker in 2 months.
3 months, I think.
3 months.
Wow.
Yeah.
But it's the way it was formatted. The impetus for that was that I was at a bookstore and I saw the University of Pennsylvania had a book like that, and thumbed through it. I took some pictures and I was like, we can definitely do this. And that type of book, that type of style, it's picture caption, picture caption, picture caption. We already had the pictures and
Right.
and we knew most of the captions. Like, we didn't have to do a lot of research. That it was a fast process. But the first book, where it went over the 100 years of the Blue Band history, I think we'd like to do that again for 125th.
We seem to. I mean, the impetus, I think, behind the books has ended up being sort of the momentous occasions of the history of the band, right? So 100 years, obviously, that's a big deal. We did Into the Game at 110 because so many important things had happened
Those
over
10
those 10 years, which
are
is huge,
full of
right?
stuff.
I mean, so it seemed to demand that that wasn't something that we could legitimately wait on, and then still have access to that information. Come 125, the one thing when we started working on this one, we kind of knew that the COVID situation was going to be a major factor. I mean, this is going to be a year to a year and a half or so that people are talking about for another 100 years.
People
right?
still talk about the Spanish flu.
Right,
I mean,
exactly.
It's the
So-
same deal.
Right. So we couldn't give that the full sort of sense of what that meant as to being a part of the band experience because of the fact that we were in the midst of it. But that book for 2024, we're going to be able to have that adequate level of reflection back on these past several years, and to be able to sort of have that information and give people a sense of not just the years that preceded it, but these years in particular, and how significant these years have been. But it's just going to take a bit. So another year or two, and we're always gathering information. Like every time something comes up, we stick it in the archives so that we know that this is something that we want to go back to, for the next history book. But yeah, 125 is going to be right. It's going to be the right time to celebrate the band again. Because it deserves it, and also to preserve another important chapter in that history.
Another generation.
Right.
Yeah, absolutely.
So, Lou mentioned his retirement earlier. Does anyone have anything interesting going on in their personal lives right now? Have any interesting hobbies or any interesting talents?
Oh,
Well, I just got married again.
Yeah. Congratulations.
job.
Thank you.
Did you get an invite? I didn't get an
Nah.
invite. Did you get an
No,
invite?
well,
Charles?
I got married during COVID, so nobody got an invite.
Ugh.
It was a Zoom wedding.
Yeah, it pretty much was. So,
Did you get a Zoom link?
I
didn't get a
No,
Zoom
I didn't
link.
get a
Charles,
Zoom
did
link
you get a
either.
Zoom
I
link?
didn't get a Zoom link, no.
I'll sell you the DVD. But, the just friends rates though.
No. Oh.
Yeah, so yeah, I have that going on. She is not a Penn Stater. She was a nursing student and had been a nurse for many years. So she really didn't know much about Penn State altogether, but now she's thoroughly into Penn State. I've got her infected with that fever.
Right on.
So
You had to
hard.
drink the water.
so she's
all you need to do.
Drank the Kool-Aid.
so she was she's very excited. Last year we watched some football games and got her into it. She's looking forward a lot to meeting all my friends from band and meeting from alumni band and to coming up to Penn State and going to her first game well, she had been to Penn State before. She had a boyfriend up here like many years ago. So, but she had. I don't know that she'd ever been to a game before. So, gonna try to get her to a game. And
Seems like the right idea.
yeah, I think so. So it's so I have that going on. I think that's my one big thing.
Right on.
I retired teaching, a math teacher and technology teacher. The last 13 years was in Council Rock, so I retired from teaching in 2019, and then actually I took a position with the College of IST as the internship coordinator. However, I was let go in May of last year, right? 2020? Yeah, May of 2020. That's when I said, well, I have time to write a book. I might as well write a book.
Right on.
You know?
Right on.
But during this past time, I've always been very involved with comic book collecting. And I used to own a comic book shop before kids and all that. Well, kids have both graduated from Penn State. So I'm getting more involved with eBay and things like that, and I'm finding out I'm making a lot more money buying and selling on eBay or going to comic book conventions than working a full-time job. So I'm like, you know what? Retirement's not too bad.
What's interesting is, we're all in our early 50s. We're not, ancient people, but we're all three of us have within the past year have retired from our careers, and
Which people look at us all weirdly.
Yeah,
it's like, no,
do.
you're not 60-something,
They really
you're 50
do.
something. You shouldn't be
just
retiring.
But then looking for new opportunities for all of us, all three of us, I think, to try something new. So maybe it is a good time to start a new book, the three of us. So.
Well, I think it's time for us to realize that we can enjoy our lives. Like,
Yeah.
And not saying I didn't enjoy teaching. I enjoyed teaching.
Mm-hmm.
But things were changing, and either I was too old or not willing to change, or I didn't like the way things were changing. It was a good time for me to get out of teaching. Working for IST, there were some very good days, and I loved working with the students. The atmosphere wasn't right for me, and that's not to insult the College of IST. It's just I'm very outgoing and believe it or not, some people say loud.
What? No.
They said I had no school spirit, and no, I never said that.
Devoid.
But as they said, I wasn't just a good fit. They loved me, but I wasn't a good fit. So I was like, and I was like, wow, I've never not fit somewhere. I mean, I know I've gained weight and all, but I still.
There's plenty of times I haven't fit into that.
That's usually
Sadly.
a doorway, Sean. But it
Round
gave
is a
me
shape,
another opportunity, and now I'm enjoying it. I'm getting more involved. Both Lou and I are part of the State College Rotary Club. I'm thinking.
I'm the president of it.
Are you?
You're not just a member.
I didn't vote
I'm not
for
just
you.
a member, I'm the
no, he's a club president. And then I'm thinking of joining the Nittany Knights, which is a singing group, because I like to sing. And and then on top of that, I have the bed and breakfast. I forgot to mention that.
Yeah.
I run the bed and breakfast.
Yeah, there just doesn't seem to be any lack of opportunities. It really is remarkable. Sean, your point is well taken. That here we all are, and we've gotten to our 50s, and just sort of looked at our lives and our careers and been like, I don't have to work nearly as hard as I thought that I did. It's not that I didn't love my work. It's not that I didn't put everything into my work, but holy cow, it's not like I need to be nose to the grindstone. My kids are now adults, and the level of pressure that I felt like I needed to put on myself and the work that I needed to do, and I feel like it's absolutely okay to let your foot up off the gas a little bit. And this sounds crazy. To actually enjoy life, to go
Blasphemer.
I know, right? Go where you want to go, and where I had an athletic director many years back who said, "Work is not my life. Work is what I do to have a life." And it took me, I think, until like last week to figure that out for myself. And so now I can stay on part time at the museum, the All Sports Museum, and I love it there. I absolutely love it. I love the people. I love the folks that I work with. I love the guests that come in. I love being able to I love the look on people's faces when I greet them at the door and I'm like, oh, so you're here to see the museum? That's fantastic. And they'll be like, yeah, we were just driving by on 99 and we saw the stadium and we were like, that's really amazing. Let's stop by. And I'm like, that's cool. Well, we've got this cool museum that charts the entire history of everything Penn State athletics, and the Blue Band is in the museum as well, right? Cool. And then I look at them and go, go walk through the museum, and then when you're done, come back out to me, and I'll take you up and let you see inside the stadium. The look on people's faces is absolutely priceless. Like, it's absolutely nothing that they expected. They figured that, just walk through a museum, whatever, and whatnot. And then I take them out there and I show them the stadium, and we talk about the history of the stadium and a little bit about the history of Penn State football, and they leave and they were happy when they came in, and they're even happier when they leave. And I get to do.
You get to experience that. You feed off of that.
Right, you do. It absolutely. You feel their joy. You feel a joy in being able to represent the university that has been a part of your life for so many decades, and to talk to other people about it, to talk to prospective students, to talk to alums, to just to share in their experiences and give them a little bit of your own. And it's I just love spending time there. I'm stunned they pay me to do it. Because honestly,
can I have a job there?
Yeah, why don't you stop by? We'll see what we can do.
This is an exciting time for, in particular, the three of us, because we're all entering into new phases in our lives and looking back and kind of taking time to smell the roses a little bit and looking back and seeing the kind of things that we've done in our past that we've enjoyed, and looking forward to new opportunities in the future for the three of us doing whatever it is that we feel like doing.
Right. Because heck, all things considered, we're all still pretty young. Like I said, everybody looks at you and says, like, "What? You're 50 and you're retired? How is that?
How are you doing?
Like, how are you doing that? Why are you doing that? You've got at least another 10 or 15 years.
We're living on
that you
peanut butter
be...
sandwiches.
But honestly, if you don't take the opportunity to invest a little bit of time in yourself instead of in just the work, then you're not really living.
Right. I remember my wife Maureen and I talking right when we were beginning. I mean, right after we were married and so on and so forth. And we both kind of agreed, we'll do the rat race until we can survive without having to do the rat race. And that's exactly what we're doing.
What was it that Lily Tomlin said? Even if you win the rat race, you're still a rat.
Still a rat.
You're still a rat, right?
Yeah. That, like I said, for me, I'm shifting into a new career too, but it's a new time in life for me, being remarried after many years, and thinking of all the new things that have come my way in my life, that I'm ready for something new to come my way, it's very exciting, I think,
Yeah.
for all of us.
Right on.
So
I would be remiss just because, Sean, you mentioned you were remarried, and Tom, you just name dropped Maureen.
Yeah, you better
I
name drop.
I better.
What's her name
right.
again?
So I think one of the reasons why I can do what it is that I'm doing, why I
True.
was able to retire, is because of the fact that my wife Sharon, she also works for the university, and she's in a position to be able to be full time and is in a good place. She works for the College of Information Science and Technology.
Okay.
I see.
And so when we were discussing the whole idea of retirement, she looked at me and she was just like, if you want to retire, if you feel like it's the right move to do, she says 100% support it. There's no reason why you should keep doing a thing that that is exhausting you. And so there's no question that it's because she and I have the relationship that we do, and she has the job that she does, and she looked at me and we could be honest with each other to be able to say, it's okay. It's absolutely okay to do that. So I owe a lot. I owe a lot to her to be able to make the decision that we've made to be what it is that I want to be. So,
And you guys-
props, my love.
She would like that snippet sent to her.
It's the play on loop.
And this is going to be on YouTube, so you can show it to her right once we upload
Sure.
it.
So
Yeah.
I'll probably edit that one.
Hurtful.
Any of you guys have any final thoughts or anything you want to plug or anything like that?
Plug.
Plug.
Nah, I don't want to. I don't feel comfortable plug. I mean, you have that staycations business.
I mean, right.
But yeah, you shouldn't plug the staycations
Probably
available.
should not plug staycations.
Oh, here we go.
So, and amongst the other things that so Tom owns a bed and breakfast. I own a bed and breakfast reservation service that actually
What's the
bought
name of my bed and
front of-
breakfast?
the Keller House Bed and Breakfast.
Oh, where's it located, Lou?
It's located in Center Hall, Tom.
Wow, what a nice area.
When he purchased that, he called us up, Sharon and I, and was like, "Look, there's a reservation system for a whole bunch of bed and breakfast properties that goes along with this." He's like, "I don't want it."
I wouldn't, being a full-time teacher and then trying to run the bed and breakfast from 3 hours away, there was just no way this other avenue.
I mean, basically a whole other business. So we bought it from him and then turned it into our own business. So it was my wife and I, and then several of our other college friends, a combination of blue banders and fraternity brothers. We all partnered up together, and we've been running it since 2012. Managing reservations. So we don't own any of the properties. We just, like, people call us up, and then we have connections to these different properties. Mostly for football weekends or graduation things.
Well, I might as well plug something of my own.
Right on, go ahead, man.
Now, I
we've
don't
got the
li-
mic,
Oh, they
so-
ran out of tape.
Yeah.
Oh, what a shame, Sean.
Yeah, digital tape. Now I don't live in the State College area. I live in the Mansfield area up by Tioga County, in Tioga County, and I have a new place up there. So, and we are it's a big Victorian in Mansfield that we're turning into an Airbnb, which is very interesting.
How on earth?
That is
all
weird.
three
You
of us
guys are
are
copycats.
involved,
What
yeah.
is going on?
So I am doing
We've been
that.
hanging with each other too long.
It's
know.
terrible, but so I've got that going on. We're just trying to figure out what it is that we want to do when we grow up, my wife and I. So, and her name is Cheryl.
Oh,
We've
you
been
have to say
married.
that.
We've been married a year and a couple months now. So, since you guys mentioned your wives, I guess I better mention mine too.
That's a good idea.
So,
I guess I better mention how
That's
nice
gonna
to
play
have
real
that.
well.
That's
You're
going
gonna
to play
twist
real
my
well for
arm,
her.
you know. Well, I won't play her this part of the YouTube.
But
Well, there you go.
I don't think we're going to plug. What else is there to plug? I think that's about all the plugging we need.
Our
to
books.
do. I would say,
Yeah.
well, obviously, I mean, we have 3 history books. Sean and I did the first one. Lou and I did the second and third about the Blue Band. I have a separate one which I created. It's about the history of Penn State University completely through picture postcards. When
Yeah.
my father passed, he basically willed me the postcards, and it turned out I think he was going to write a book because a lot of the postcards on the back had notes. This was named after this person and that person and stuff. So I was happy to do that tradition. He has written other books. That's why you'll see Thomas E. Range II,
Mm-hmm.
not to confuse with Thomas E. Range, which was my father.
Okay.
But parting thoughts. Blue Band, as you can probably tell, the Blue Band has had such a significant, what would you call it? Significant impact on each and every one of us. And I know I would not be the person I am today without the Blue Band and the friends that I've made through Blue Band and the friends that I've made through Alumni Blue Band. I can tell people, I know I have friends from Alumni Blue Band that are 20 years older than I am, and I have some that are 20 years younger than I am. And that all stems from being in the Blue Band. That it would have never happened.
I would agree with every single word you said. I feel the exact same way. All of us have experienced that.
All right. Well, this was a lot of fun, gentlemen. Thank you very much for sitting down with us today.
Yeah, thanks, Charles.
Oh,
Absolutely, our
absolutely.
pleasure.
Thank you for inviting us. And did you say we were the first?
Yeah, this is the first episode.
Oh,
yeah.
great.
Ooh, dun 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 dun.
Don't ever do that again.
Oh, it was lots of fun. Thank you so much
Thanks.
for your
I
time.
really
Charles.
appreciate it.
Thank you. Thank you very much for tuning in. This is Downbeat with the Blue Band, and we'll see you later.
And we're out.